Hey all, I'm your host Michael and welcome back to Awful Stories. As always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave the video a like and consider subscribing if you're new. With that said, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Princess No Hope in the relationship subreddit. The post is titled, "I'm in an awkward position with my childhood best friend and my boyfriend." I've known my best friend, Kevin, since I was 5 years old. He is a great friend and a great guy. I've never felt anything but friendship toward him. If anything, I consider him to be like a brother to me. I'm not physically attracted to him and have always treated him platonically. I've always kept the affection strictly at a friendship level, occasional hugs and whatnot, nothing more, because I don't want to send him confusing signals. When we were in high school, Kevin asked me to be his girlfriend and confessed that he had always had feelings for me. I was 15 and he was 16. I explained that I only saw him as a friend and that my feelings were not going to change. I have always been certain of this. After a period of awkwardness, he let it go and we became close friends again, as if nothing had happened. He also asked me to his senior prom, but to avoid causing confusion, I said no, and he went with someone else instead. I have told him more than once that we are just friends and that I am not looking for anything more from him. I'm not a very emotional person and have very limited dating experience, but about 6 months ago, I met a guy named Mark. I was instantly attracted to him. We discovered that we complement one another very well and started dating about a month after we met. Mark is my first serious boyfriend. He makes me very happy, and even though it's early in the relationship, I am excited to see where it leads. He is very warm and understanding. I had never really felt a spark with a guy until I met Mark. I waited a little while to introduce Kevin to Mark because I was afraid of Kevin's reaction. Whenever I went on a date in high school, Kevin would get really jealous, so I stopped talking about guys with him altogether. But I wanted Kevin and Mark to meet because I want them both in my life, and I hope that if he saw me happy, Kevin would finally get over whatever feelings he had for me. I told Mark that Kevin had or has feelings for me, but I assured him that I did not feel the same way, and he trusted my word. We all went out together, Kevin, myself, Mark, and a couple of other friends, after Mark and I became official, and it was just as I feared. Kevin hated Mark from the moment they met. Mark tried his hardest to be friendly and to engage Kevin in conversation, but Kevin was rude and standoffish the whole time. Even our other friends thought he was taking it too far. I had hoped he would at least give Mark a chance since Mark was making an effort, but Kevin wasn't having it. Mark was upset, but I told him I would speak to Kevin about his behavior. I asked Kevin to try to be a little nicer to Mark or at least meet him halfway, and Kevin promised to try. Kevin didn't really try. He continued to treat Mark like he didn't exist and would only invite me to hang out, not Mark. About a week ago, a group of us were out bowling and Mark overheard Kevin saying some very rude things about him to one of our other friends. Mark confronted him and things got heated. No punches were thrown, but I took Mark and we left shortly after. Mark apologized for making a scene, but I texted Kevin after we got home and told him that I didn't appreciate how he was treating my boyfriend and that if he didn't stop, I wasn't going to hang out with him anymore. Kevin asked me to meet with him the next day, alone, so we could talk about it. I met him at a coffee shop and he basically told me that he couldn't believe I was picking Mark over him. He ranted about how he'd always been there for me, how he's been by my side for years, waiting for me to feel the same way he does, and that I basically stepped all over him for some random guy I've only known for half a year. He then told me what I've always suspected and dreaded. He's been in love with me for years and can't stand to see me with someone else. I calmly reiterated that I have only ever considered him a friend and have told him that before, and he went off on a big tirade about how insensitive I am, parading my boyfriend around in front of him. He got really emotional and said that Mark will never understand me like he does and that I'm shallow and selfish for refusing to give him a chance to change my mind. He also accused me of leading him on all these years. I apologized to Kevin for leading him on. I really don't think I did, but if he felt that way, it was unintentional on my end, and told him that he would not be able to change my mind because I'm with Mark, and even if I weren't, that doesn't mean I would date him. He was pretty livid and said that I can't have both him and Mark, and that I would have to choose between my friendship with him and my relationship with Mark. Then he stormed out of the coffee shop. It was the angriest I've ever seen him. Kevin was always a really sweet guy, but whenever Mark is around or mentioned, he just gets really mad. I've had a few days to think about this. I don't want to give up my relationship with Mark. The relationship is young, but I'm happy, and we exchanged the love word about a month ago. I haven't known him nearly as long as I've known Kevin, but my feelings for him are strong, and I don't want to give them up. I told Mark about Kevin's ultimatum and he was angry about it. He said I shouldn't have to choose and told me he thinks Kevin is being totally irrational. I hoped Kevin would cool down, but he hasn't texted me since we met up, except for one message that said, "You make up your mind yet?" I've been friends with Kevin for 13 years and I don't want to throw our friendship away. He's never acted this irrational before. However, I know that if we stay friends, he might not be able to get over his feelings, and I don't want to give him any false hope about us ending up together someday. I also think he's being a total jerk butt about everything. I'm going to pick Mark. I don't have any qualms about it. I know I need to cut Kevin out of my life. Mark would never make me choose like this, and I don't even recognize Kevin anymore from the way he's acting. But what do I say to Kevin? I'm worried about him and don't want to hurt him any more than I already have. I feel terrible about everything and hate that Mark got tied up in all this drama because he didn't even do anything. Kevin was really angry when we met up to talk, and I don't even know if I should meet with him again in person, especially alone. How do I end a 13-year friendship? Update. I knew the choice I was going to make before I made the post, but it was really gratifying in a way to see so many people support that decision and give some insight. I really appreciate it. So many of you were very helpful. Some things I did not go into detail about in the original post are my social life and friendships. I did mention that I am not an emotional person, but what I probably should have said is that I don't easily form emotional attachments to people and have difficulty interacting with others. I don't want to go into detail, but my parents played a big role in that. Kevin is the only consistent friend I've ever had. My social life has improved considerably over the past couple of years, especially in the months since I've been dating Mark. I've learned to open up to people more, and I am much happier. But for a while, when I was younger, Kevin was all I had. That's why it was so hard to come to the decision to cut him from my life. Anyway, about 4 days after I made the post, I texted Kevin and told him to meet me at the same coffee place where we met before so we could talk. I was scared to meet with him alone, so I brought Mark. It might not have been the best move, and several comments suggested it would be better to call, text, or email, but I wanted to speak to him firmly face to face so he could see how serious I was, and Mark wanted to be there in case Kevin got angry with me. He sat in a corner with a book and monitored the situation from a distance so he could step in if necessary. Prior to our meeting, I let several of our mutual friends know about the situation. Most of them were very understanding. Some were already aware because Kevin had spoken to them. I gave them my side of things so they could at least understand where both of us were coming from. I didn't ask them to choose sides, I just wanted both sides to be out there. I have received a significant amount of support from them, though a couple of them seem to think I am being difficult, but whatever, I've been called worse. Many of my friends really like Mark and have become his friends too, so I am glad that they are being understanding about this for the most part. When Kevin and I met up, I said just what a lot of you recommended. I told him that I was not the one who was ending this friendship. He was ending it by making me choose between him and being in a relationship with Mark. I told him a real friend wouldn't do that to me, and if he really cared about me, he would be happy that I am in a relationship with someone I really care about. He said that a good friend wouldn't ignore his feelings like I have and wouldn't lead him on. I told him that he's been ignoring my feelings as well and reminded him that I told him early on that I did not have feelings for him. It was a lot of back and forth, and I reiterated to Kevin that even if I were not with Mark, I wasn't going to date him. I then said that we needed space apart to reevaluate things because being around one another was not good for either of us, and I told him that I hoped he would find his own happiness. Kevin didn't respond well. He made a minor scene and stormed out of the coffee shop. He also called me some very not nice names, which only reaffirmed that I made the right decision to cut him out of my life. This happened pretty quickly, and Kevin left before Mark could intervene. Mark and I left the shop soon after, and I haven't heard from Kevin since, though he has been telling some of our mutual friends how terrible I am and what a bad friend I've been, so there's that. I do not intend to contact him and will not be attending any of the same social events as him. I have also blocked him on social media for the time being. I am very sad to lose my friendship with Kevin. If he is able to sort out his feelings, then I have hope that we can reconnect in the future, but I do not think that will happen anytime soon, and I will be moving on with my life and continuing my relationship with Mark. I have also apologized to Mark for the whole situation, and he's been great through it all. I'm really very lucky to have him. I have told him I will work on communicating better with him. Anyway, Mark recently had a non-emergency issue with his family back home and asked me to go with him to visit his family and deal with the situation. I didn't want to intrude, but he said he would feel better having me there with him for support. We will be gone for a couple of months out of the country as his family lives in Europe. We leave this weekend, and although it's not an ideal situation, I am glad that there will be an entire ocean between Kevin and me, so hopefully he can start sorting out his issues. Thank you again for all of your help. I might update again if anything changes. Final update. After my first update, I got a lot of supportive comments, which I greatly appreciate. I also got a few nasty PMs calling me some pretty colorful names. Fortunately, I've seen every episode of Game of Thrones, so I am desensitized to profane language and insults. On the other hand, the nice messages were lovely to read, and I'm grateful for the feedback. I'm sorry that I didn't reply to most of them, but it's been a busy couple of months. Someone also linked my original post and the first update to a different subreddit. I checked it out after someone mentioned it in the comments or in a PM, and I was surprised to see my post there, but it did offer me some insight to look through the comments there, as well as the comments on my posts here. After my last post, Mark and I went to Germany and stayed there from June until the last week of July. Once his family issues were resolved, we spent a lot of time together, and I got to know his family. They were very welcoming, which was a huge relief as I tend to come off as a little cold when meeting people. We got along well, and it was a very enjoyable trip. His parents want us to come back for the holidays, so that is now in our plans. Mark and I have been together for less than a year, but the trip strengthened our relationship and reaffirmed that I want to be with him. While I was away, I had almost no contact with friends from home other than occasional messages. I had no contact whatsoever with Kevin. I didn't ask any of our friends about him, and they didn't tell me anything. Even after I returned home, I did not inquire about him or communicate with him in any way, and most of my friends knew not to bring him up. I assumed they did the same with Kevin in regard to me. If I knew he would be at a social gathering, I did not attend. I've been planning to move to a new city for education and career purposes since last year, and I've been scoping out places to live and employment opportunities for a while now. With help from a few friends I have in the area, those plans have come to fruition. Mark and I have discussed it extensively, and he decided to make the move with me. His whole family is in Germany, and he doesn't have any strong connections to our current city. We've lined up an apartment together. Mark has a couple of interviews. I have my ducks in a row, and we will be moving in about a week. I am so excited to begin this new chapter of my life with Mark, and I am confident about the future for both of us, individually and together. This past weekend, a few of our friends threw a goodbye party for Mark and me at one of our favorite local hangouts. Although many of them were aware of the whole Kevin fiasco, he was invited to the event without my knowledge. I nearly panicked when he walked in the door. He asked me if we could talk. He seemed very calm, so I consented. We stayed in the party area because I didn't want to be alone with him. Well, Reddit, he apologized for everything he said, for bad-mouthing me to our mutual friends, for the ultimatum, for being a total jerk to Mark, and for not listening to me when I rejected him the first time. He said that going no contact was the best thing for him because it helped him put everything in perspective. Then he said, and I'm not even kidding, I didn't realize I was being a nice guy. I forgave him, no waterworks or fanfare. I also apologized to him for possibly giving him mixed signals as it was never my intention. And he said that after he had time to think about it, he realized that he had been ignoring my feelings and that he should have respected my wishes in the first place. We both agreed that our friendship could survive, but we would never be best friends again. We are going to be friendly, but he's going to be a few hundred miles away now, which is good for everyone involved. Kevin told me that he is doing well and has even gone on a couple of dates since our big falling out. He seems really hopeful about things, and I am happy for him. I do think he has moved on from Niskai Dom. I stole that from someone in the first update and onto a better mindset, and I'm sure he will be very happy in the future once he finds the right girl. He wasn't always the too intense male personification of Taylor Swift's You Belong With Me. When we were done talking, Kevin spoke to Mark. I don't know the details of that conversation, but they shook hands and Mark told me that Kevin apologized to him. They'll never be bros or anything, but as long as neither tries to kill the other when they're in the same room, I consider it a victory. Some of our mutual friends have also apologized to me for calling me names during this whole situation and for listening to Kevin's bad-mouthing. I'm pretty much over it. There's no point in holding grudges now when Mark and I are moving on to a new chapter in our lives and Kevin is starting his own. A lot of posters commented that I am lucky to have a guy like Mark. He's dealt with everything very well and I couldn't ask for a more supportive boyfriend. As I mentioned the last time, I have apologized to Mark for unintentionally dragging him into this drama. He said that he is just glad it has been resolved and he appreciates that I told him everything from the start. I hope no one has to deal with a Kevin in the same way I did, but if anyone else out there does have a situation like this, I hope your Kevin or Kevinette comes around and the situation is resolved. For those of you who sent me hateful messages, I cannot imagine how cumbersome it is to carry so much spite and vitriol for someone you've never met. I hope you someday learn to channel your bitterness in more effective ways and can find a more productive outlet for your anger, apart from anonymously cursing out teenage girls on the internet. Thank you all for your advice and insight over my last 2 posts. I am very grateful. I personally don't think guys can have normal friendships with women. Of course, there are exceptions, but I think in most of those friendships, the guy wants something more. That being said, the friend in this story certainly overreacted, I think. It's not like the OP didn't make it clear that she didn't see him in a romantic light. If she had been leading him on for years, then I could see the frustration, but that's just not the case here. The guy just came across as very entitled, having been her friend for over a decade and believing that he had first dibs almost. Again, I don't think guys can just be friends with women, so I think the apology at the end is more or less going to completely cut ties between the two. But good on the guy for apologizing nevertheless.